we've got Luke Pearson with us. He is the founder of Code Relief Coalition, and he is Code Relief Foundation or Coalition. And so anyways, he's very interested in streamlining building codes. And well, why don't you tell us exactly why you're doing what you do, who you are, and why you do it. So
well, I'm Luke Pearson. I've been building in Shasta County, Tehama County, Glenn County, Lassen, pretty much all of the North State for 25 years. And I draw my own plans. I draw plans for other people as well, and permit them through the county. And some projects I just permit for people because the county is so arduous that people call me and say, hey, I just need you to get these through the county. But my main focus with the Code Relief Coalition was through the years I watched every code cycle. I watch codes get passed, like say 2025, our recent codes, or 2012, I believe, when fire sprinklers were implemented. And you watch what it does to the building market, and every time it's about a 20% drop in building because you add $30,000 at least every code change, and so that's just that much more money where you price people out, and then that many less houses built, and that many more people that are trying to figure out some alternative way, either buy a house that's already built because it's cheaper, but actually the price of houses that are already built, even if they were built in the 60s, are still inflated by what I just kind of made up the term codeflation. They're inflated by, you have this code on a brand new house that increases the price by 40%. So, your $400,000 house is now $650,000 or, somewhere in that neighborhood to build the same house. And that elevates that new construction. So inherently that's obviously going to elevate your stuff that was built back in the 1960s because you go to look at it and you're already, you're looking at a market that's been capped fakely. The cap has been pushed up and up by this code. So my main focus has been to find a way to, end run goal would be to opt out of ICC. And that would be just telling ICC, yeah, we don't want your code here anymore. We're opting out of the International Code Council. We want to be Shasta County.
So what exactly is the ICC, and what is their jurisdiction and everything?
So the ICC, the International Code Council, it's kind of foggy where it started. It kind of, when you research it, you find that it was started in California in a way from BOCA, the CBC, and a few different building codes groups that were throughout the state. In Southern California, you had a building code, then in Northern California had a building code kind of loosely, and in the middle of California you had a building code. Well, they kind of came together as well as with a few different building code groups like in other states, and they formed the ICC. But it was really funded by USAID and George Bush in 1994. They were the ones that came in and said, we like this idea, let's make a uniform building code for the whole country. And it kind of seemed like they formed this building code and they started to, almost before it was even implemented in California, they started to push it in South America, countries in the Middle East, in Europe, and it's written in Washington, D.C. It's a private entity out of Washington, D.C., and it's not a government agency. It's a private business that does this, or they're probably like a nonprofit NGO kind of a thing is what they are. But they're passing rules that are implemented in 38 different countries. So it's not this code. Most people, you think Shasta County, our code is from Shasta County. No, it's same code you're getting in France. It's the same code you're getting in some South American country, like Venezuela, for instance. Where you would get a code that is enveloped into San Francisco code would be the same code as here, which, right off the top of your head, you automatically go, oh, wait, there's going to be a real problem because we got houses here that are a mile apart and houses down there that are 3 feet apart. So they're obviously going to enforce codes like fire sprinklers, for instance, where when I've really pushed.
Yeah, if you have like a 90-story building or something like that, should be a different code than if you're just a single-family house or a one-story business versus a 96-floor building.
Which I do agree with. Like, if you had like a 90-story building, obviously you got to have fire sprinklers there, and that needs to be in place because there's not a lot of ways out. But when you're looking at residential building code, I think you really need to look at it as that's you're building in these areas in a rural setting, and many people want to be left alone. They want to be on their 10 acres and they want to have their own house, and they want to be, a lot of people nowadays want to kind of unplug. They don't want to be on the grid. They don't want to be dealing with the government. They don't want to be, property taxes.
I mean, you can't even build a chicken coop if it's over 120 square feet, really, without getting a permit.
It's funny you bring that up because when I contacted the ICC, there's a California chapter that is basically handed the code down from the International Building Code. And I was bringing a few things up to them where their code didn't match the ICC International Code. And when I brought that up, they said, well, no, we have the state of California as 200 square feet of building you can have on your property with no permits for storage and what have you. And I said, no, it's 120. You guys made it 120. And the guy said, what? I didn't realize we did that. I was like, yeah, you were the ones that did that. Like, how do you not know?
That's funny. So there's got to be a way out of this, obviously, because that's why you're putting this work in. And I was telling you this story before, and I said, okay, I'll save it. But I've said this on air a few times. But my friend was a contractor, lifelong in California, moved to Alaska about 20 years ago, built a couple of houses. Well, he drew up the plans, went down to the planning department. He lives out there near Seward in the Kenai Peninsula in Alaska. And he went in there and had all he was used to dealing with, people in California. And he went in there and submitted all the paperwork. They go, yeah, it looks good. Boom. And they stamped it. And he's like, well, what now? And they're like, go build your house. And he told me the story, and I was just kind of blown away that they just said, go for it. Looks good.
That's amazing. Is it?
There was no inspections. And I'm not saying we got to go there, but I mean, obviously Alaska is part of the United States. So they must have opted out of it on a state level or a local level
There's definitely ways to do it. Because like you go to Oklahoma, it is specifically plumbing and electrical on everything. If you go to Texas, most parts are going to have their own code county to county. They do fluctuate quite a bit. Some areas have quite a bit of code, which recently in Texas, they've repealed a lot of building codes with the ICC overreach. They've said, yeah, we're not going to do it anymore because they were having such a housing problem, which California has as well. Actually, one of the things, and I started looking at this, that was really interesting, is there's 187,000 homeless people in the state of California. And they did it was a UCSF study where they went and interviewed these people, and out of like 70% of them, because you go down to, have you been to Southern California, like Davis or Berkeley, and you see like the communities of homeless people?
Yeah,
like
it's changed a lot though.
It's
in
like
the
cities,
last,
though, right?
I was born in '78, so my mom's side of the family, my grandma's 103 years old.
Oh wow!
Still lives in Southern California, so we'll go like visit her, and I got some aunts and uncles and stuff down there. But I've seen there's certain areas that haven't changed a lot, but I've seen it change quite a bit in the last, since I've been alive, or as long as I can remember.
Yeah, but it is changed a lot, and there's a lot of homeless people down there. There's whole areas where you have large encampments of homeless people. Many of them actually go to work. They have jobs. They just don't have a place to live. But so they went and surveyed, and out of like 70% of the people they surveyed, they said that the reason they were homeless is because they couldn't afford rent or a mortgage.
Yeah.
So, and then there was another study I was reading. It was from the it was like the California Builders Association or something like that, and they were saying that when you increase the price of a house by 30% just in California, you price 1 to 1.5 million people out of the market.
Yeah.
And if you took, and this is they were the ones that were saying, they said if you took just 10% of those people and they ended up being homeless, that's 100,000 to 150,000 people. It's like, whoa, this is a huge chunk of our homeless population. If you could get this under control, statewide, and get the ICC out from county to county, at least you may have building codes in San Francisco and LA that are, out of control. But you could go to a neighboring county that would say, yeah, you can build this. You don't need fire sprinklers. You don't need solar. You don't have to do Title 24. You don't have to put 2x6 walls in to fit R29 insulation. You don't have to redesign your trusses to fit R49 insulation. You can build a house that you can afford because we're not going to implement all this code on you. We're in a relatively temperate climate anyways. How many more people would be able to actually build a house? And then, and I know the real estate market doesn't want to see it, and a lot of people don't, but you would bring the cost of those new houses being built down. which would cause the house, the price of houses that were built in the, in the 80s or what have you, it would bring those down. So everything would start to get down to a more affordable level. Because if you look at, like, I like to use Texas because they're so far ahead of us in building numbers and in quality, really. The average price of a house in California is $840,000, and the average price of a house in Texas is $340,000.
Yeah.
I mean, right there, it's like you got to add those numbers up for a little bit, and you're like, whoa.
And then if you can't afford to buy, and you're renting, it's really rough out there to try to rent a place here in Shasta County or anywhere for the most part. But I mean, most people can't afford to rent. They can't afford to buy. They can't, most people I know are struggling to pay their bills,
Do you live in Shasta County?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I live in the county, just outside of the city. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you're off grid?
I'm not off grid. No.
No.
I'm looking at it though. I'm looking at So where I live, I have 10 acres, but they're building. I went from 0 neighbors to about to have 180 neighbors.
Oh, what? How's that happening?
Well, the properties are developed. One's like 130 house development, and then the other one is basically like 9 acres that's going to get turned into 52 properties. They're making 29 duplexes, and they're going to split it down the middle. And so the property line goes down the middle, and that's built 10 feet from my fence line and my house. But my plan has been to be further out and off the grid and be able to, raise cattle and stuff like that. Right now I do sheep on my 10 acres and I got chickens and all that, but I kind of want to get to where I'm just more self-sustained homestead. And I'm probably like half and half right now, but I'm ready. I got 1 foot out the door. I'm kind of looking around right now. There's some more reasonably priced places right now than there was, a few years ago.
Yeah.
But I have real estate that I can sell. For me, I figure I could sell high, buy high, sell low, buy low. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a wash for me. But anyways, yeah. So yeah.
Well, I think that I feel like so the way forward, I've kind of looked at a few different avenues of the way forward for the Shasta County or the Code Relief Coalition, depending on how it moves forward. If Shasta County Board of Supervisors says, yeah, we don't want to have anything to do with it, which is understandable because it'll probably be, I would imagine that the state would probably say, we're going to pull funding is generally what they do.
Yeah.
But my thoughts is if they did, they could do a resolution of intent, and they could declare that Shasta County has an intent to review the ICC-based building codes, and they could probably do some studies and feasibility and look at this building code, and I think you could come back if you did some studies from legitimate sources that would come back and they would say, okay, wait, the fire sprinkler code doesn't have any proof that it's ever saved a life in the state of California. There's none. So it refers to Maryland. I guess it's a state.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, all I can remember Maryland is I think it was the only northern state to side with the Confederate Army during the Civil War. That's all I remember about Maryland from school. But it's like a state of 4 million people compared to 40 million in California. And somehow, and I would really like to see how they do their studies. Somehow in the state of Maryland, they implemented fire sprinklers and they saved, I think they said 50,000 people's lives. It's like, wait, so we got 40 million people in California. We don't have one instance and you did it with 4 million? So I really doubt these numbers actually add up.
Statistics are a funny thing.
Yeah, they're pretty funny because, just in Sacramento North, we've lost 30,000 homes in 10 years.
Yeah.
5 years? Actually, I think it's 5 years.
I'm not sure. I don't know the numbers, but it's a lot.
It's a lot. And all those houses burnt from the outside in. Every one of them, when you look at it, as soon as the fire starts, it's coming from the outside in. Generally, all of your utilities have shut down, so there's no water anyway. So your fire sprinklers aren't doing anything. Then if you go beyond that and you start to look at California, okay, somebody's asleep in their bed at night. How does the house burn down? And it's like 80% or 90% of those homes are mobile or modular homes. because it's another kind of caveat or interesting thing as the law is that you look at right now you can go buy a brand new modular home, and by code you do not have to put solar on it or fire sprinklers or Title 24 or Green Energy Building Code or anything. You have to have no HERS inspections, none of it. So it's like, well, how did this work? Because how many trailer parks is there where they can roll in 100 trailers and there's none of the codes for a stick-built house? So to me, I automatically go, well, somebody's making money. Like somebody is profiting off of this. Somebody has went and lobbied and said, hey, we're going to pump out, 1 million of these homes next year, and we're going to give you a cut. Just make it so we have some kind of we don't have to follow this law. The stick builders can do it, but not us. Which you see that a lot these days is things become more transparent.
Yeah, and kind of like the light bulbs, they're going to outlaw incandescent light bulbs, and then you've got to buy these compact fluorescents. When California did that, there was a lot of lobbying involved in that, and a lot of money to be made. All in the name of saving the environment when they emit all kinds of toxic stuff and really bad for your eyes. But that's getting a little bit off subject. But we see it in.
Well, it's actually I think it makes a good point though, because remember it was like 2000. I don't know, I think it was like 2009 or something like that, 2010, when they outlawed incandescent light bulbs and everything you had to use. It might have been earlier than that. It might have been like 2002. They outlawed incandescents, and you had to use fluorescent everywhere in a house. And the fluorescents are horrible.
Yeah.
They're horrible. They don't last at all. They'd last 2 weeks and they'd blow out. I had people calling me all the time. They'd been replacing light bulbs in their house because it just felt ridiculous, that all their light bulbs burned out. And it was a few years later, LEDs came along and replaced them. It was just the natural. If you just let the sequence go through its natural course, somebody invented an LED light bulb that pulled like 3 watts compared to 100 watts.
Yeah.
And, in a fluorescent, it went from 40 watts to 3 watts, and it took over the market. Now everybody uses LEDs, and it was more efficient, and it wasn't something you had to impose a law on. You just wait.
I mean, I'm all for the environment. Don't get me wrong. I mean, but a lot of these things are what is put as the solution to the problem is usually worse than what was already in place. And I don't think we need government to be our daddy with everything we do in life, So I don't know. I think a lot of the stuff should be personal choice and not, controlled by the government. But anyways,
I think it's very true though. It's like if you just off the top of your head, if you thought of it right now and said, okay, when I go to states, and I rodeoed for years, and like 15 years, I professional rodeoed. So I'd go back to Oklahoma and Texas and those states and rodeo back there. And I was a builder here. I'd drive through these areas, and I'd always make a point to go into the building department just because I was curious. And I would go in, I'd pull in some place in Oklahoma, and I'd say, hey, if I wanted to build a house, down over here on a 5-acre lot, what would I need? And the guy would say, well, bring in your plans. We'll inspect your plumbing and your electrical just to make sure everything is drawn out right. And we can look at your building plans if you want us to, but we don't need to see them. Unless you want us to look at them, we can. It's like $25 for the permit, and go start building, and we'll come inspect your electrical and plumbing. And you would drive through these areas, and the houses were beautiful. They were 2-story brick, and they were, the landscaping. They looked like you would see in like what's the subdivision over here east of town that's such a nice Terra Oaks. It's like stuff you'd see in Terra Oaks everywhere. That's just what they built because they had more money to put into their house rather than building codes and school fees, which have gotten absorbent, but it's kind of a different direction. But if you look at right now, I feel the same scenario would work out if you started reducing not building fees, but building code requirements.
Yeah.
I don't think a single person would ever put a fire sprinkler system in a house. I think that'd be pretty rare to see because it's just a great way to have a leak, which is one of the reasons why our insurance have jumped up so high.
I wonder how many people's businesses or houses were ruined from fire sprinklers artificially going off or leaking in the walls or creating black mold.
Yeah.
Black mold can kill you. Mold can get in your lungs and you don't know what's going on. And yeah, it's funny when there's certain statistics that, we saved this many lives, but they don't really look at the whole picture. Like how many, I would imagine there's probably some people that, it sounds crazy, but there very well likely could be people that died from mold created from a leak from a fire sprinkler.
Yeah.
And they having respiratory issues. And I lived in a house with mold, and I didn't know why I was having these sinus infections and just having all these issues. And I was doing a little remodeling, opened up the wall, and man, it was just black mold all through it. And I was like, no wonder I felt like absolute hell.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and that stuff's real. I mean, black mold that's a real issue right there. You know, it's when they first passed the fire sprinkler mandate, when they're getting ready to impose it, well, I guess they basically, a lot of those things, they just adopt them from the ICC building code. And I went into Shasta County and I'm questioning them about why are we adopting this fire sprinkler code. I just don't see this is going to really benefit. At that point, the fire sprinklers, if I remember right, they went off at like 140 degrees. And when I would go in and question Shasta County, and they're just basically trying to enforce laws they have no control over. I mean, they're great people. They do the best they can, but it's like given a bad hand and you just got to do what you have to do.
yeah.
But they're saying, well, you know, the idea is to save lives. You know, it's going to save lives. And I said, well, at 140 degrees, it's probably going to go off in the summertime. These attics get really hot, and they had just finished a fire sprinkler system in a Cal Fire. And I believe it was one of the Cal Fire fire stations. They had just finished it, brand new construction. Well, they hadn't moved into it yet, and we had a hot week, and it set off those fire sprinklers and wiped out the fire department before they ever got to even set foot in this brand new fire department. So they had to go and remodel the whole thing, and then they upped it to 160 degrees and said, yeah, they're going off inside these houses, so they upped it to 160. And that makes you go, well, wait, 160? I think you just might be wet and dead at that point. You probably breathed in enough smoke that it killed you.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
So I think moving forward, though, I feel like I see that if you start to fight this and you can get enough counties and enough populace behind it, if you could get, you know,
is this something that has to be won on a state level, or can a county, do you think, and I know you kind of touched on it, I mean, is it uncharted territory? We don't know what the pushback, like you said, they might threaten to pull back funding and stuff like that. So I guess it's kind of uncharted territory. Is all the counties in California pretty much go along with this?
Roughly, I think that you have some counties that implement code as soon as it's passed, they're trying to implement it. And then you have other counties that are just going to say, well, due to the manpower, we're still back in 2012. Like, we're doing the best we can.
Yeah.
So I think it kind of goes by county. So you don't have to implement these codes fully, but I believe the state's going to look at it and say, hey, you've got enough population to implement these codes, so we expect more out of you. I think in Lassen County, they're going to probably go, or Trinity County, they're going to go, yeah, you can be behind a couple.
Modoc County.
Yeah, something like that. Was it Lassen County, or not Lassen? It was years ago. I was building Trinity County, but I think Trinity County is the most least populated county in America.
Oh, wow.
There's one person in Trinity County for every 25 square miles. Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like very few. You don't realize how few people are in Trinity County. But they have to follow the same building codes you have to in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And the fire sprinklers in San Francisco I get because your houses are 3 feet apart, which is what that's my story about the 140 to 160 degrees. When I kept arguing that out, that I just don't see this working, they said, well, the reason why we have the fire sprinklers isn't necessarily to save your life. It's to keep you from catching your neighbor's house on fire. And I said, well, our neighbor's house is like a mile away. How does that going to happen? Yeah. And they said, well, it's, in cities, your houses are 3 feet apart. You could get a whole chain of houses on fire. And it's like, yeah, I get that. Implement it down there, but not up here. And, but irregardless, they're going to implement it anyways because they have no say. They just have to follow what the state says and what the county decides they're going to implement.
I put some sprinklers on my house, and I looked at some different, after the car fire, it did freak me out a little bit. It came 0.3 miles from my house, and that was like 1,000-foot flames. I was right there. And, but I was like looking at all these super complex high-tech systems, and I took a couple big sprinklers on a tripod, and I just have them hooked up to hoses. And then if there's fires, and I have well water and I have city water, I have both. So I can hook up a couple different ways. I got a generator and everything. So if I need to run the generator, but if the fires got crazy, I mean, I set it up, I spent $150 and I've got my, the sprinklers go around. I blow my gutters out, and I've got sprinklers that, go around and water everything, the whole roof around the house and everything like that. and I couldn't afford to put, $10,000 water sprinklers in. So, I mean, I didn't need the government to tell me I did it on my own. And if it works, great. But
Probably far more
it was about
effective.
It was about $150, and it just straddles the roof. And
how much more effective is that too when you really think of it?
Yeah,
like if a fire comes, you're going to be fine.
I'm protecting the outside of the house.
Yeah,
yeah,
and that's where 30,000 homes. It's like, yeah, let's do that. That makes way more sense. So yeah, I feel like if Shasta County could just declare a resolution and the county and just make a county's intent, we're gonna figure out a way to either roll back the ICC building code, or we're just gonna come up with our own code and then start setting up the framework.
Yeah,
get some research done to start really looking at what are these codes? Are they making any? What's getting safer when you pass these codes? Like, is it really is fire sprinklers really making anything any safer? Is it making any difference at all? Because it seems like the only thing that gets safer is the bottom line of 3M and Hilti and Johnson Controls when these codes get passed. Which is, when you look, the ICC is in one spot in the state of California. So when you're putting that in one spot in this hub of control, and you go there, you have these people lobbying for code change, and it's 3M, it's Honeywell, it's Simpson Strong Tie, it's Owens Corning, it's Johnson Controls, it's Hilti. I mean, it's multi. These are billion. 3M's a huge company. Isn't that the one that gave us Agent Orange? Wasn't it 3M?
I'm not 100% sure, but let's be honest, they're all owned by BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. Yeah. So all these big corporations are all owned by the same people. I've done a lot of. I could do it. I guarantee you look up who owns 3M, BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. It's so even if it's a different brand, different company, basically the same companies control all these mega corporations. But the real issue, what we got going on is it's not a safety issue. It's a poverty. It's like you were talking about. The main thing is we have too many people that are homeless, people that can't afford to live. People are behind on debt. I mean, I pay my guys pretty decent. I wish I could pay him more, but I mean, one guy makes, $30 an hour, and it's like, hey, can I get paid for next week, ahead of time? And I'm like, yeah, no problem. But and he's just trying to buy food and pay his rent. And, it's just everybody is struggling really bad, and I think that if we could get this, moving forward, that would be amazing if we can see some of the prices come down on the rent, on purchasing houses, on building houses. We don't have enough houses on the market, and they're overpriced, the ones that are. And some people, I thought after the fires, maybe people would be nicer and maybe rent their places for cheaper because people were hurting, but everybody just charged more because they could, because there was a supply. A lot of people came up, especially after, was it the campfire down in Chico area? A lot of people moved up from there because that, what was the town right there? Paradise. And yeah. Paradise all burned up. A lot of people moved up here. And so we have a supply and demand issue with housing, for sure. And so I don't know if there could be an ad hoc committee. Maybe the Board of Supervisors could create an ad hoc committee to start doing some research on this kind of stuff. And I don't know if there's other places that we could probably look at and say, look at how much less poverty there is in these places that don't have all these codes that are ridiculous, and the housing market is more affordable. And because right now, if you want to rent a place, I don't think you could find a place less than $1,800 for a little teeny house. It's just to rent and if you're going to buy a place, I mean, you're looking at, $250,000, $350,000, $450,000, $500,000. You know what I mean? I don't think you could find a place less than $250,000.
Yeah.
And your average person can't afford that with the interest rates.
No. And look, what's our median income in Shasta County? Our median income hasn't raised since the 80s. And our house prices doubled or tripled. So there's no way to feasibly look at it. Like, even today, you're looking at, okay, what does it take to make it right now? How much do you have to make an hour in Shasta County or Glenn County or Tama or Lassen to make it in this area? And I really feel like when you're looking at, okay, if you can make it not on your, renting a house from your parents or living in a trailer, but to actually move ahead in life. You're going to have some kids and you want to spend some time and you want to have a nice house. So you're going to build a new house, buy a piece of property. Can you do it? No. There's just, a fraction of people can afford to do that.
I have actually never met anybody that really likes the way the system is when the building codes and everything. And I don't think you'd find 1 out of 100 people maybe that would think everything's good. I mean, whether you're looking at people in the building department or, it's like we all just go along with it. I think the will of the people would want things, less regulations, more streamlined, less fees, more affordable housing. Even if you've got your house and you're not going to buy another place, you still want to see other people to be able to afford to buy a house. You still want to see other people to be able to rent a house, affordable. I guess unless you're the one who is renting out a bunch of places for inflated prices,
or
and you're
Honeywell,
benefiting.
or 3M.
Yeah, or 3M or these big companies that are making a bunch of money off of it. But I'd say your average person, it would be hard to find somebody that actually would want things to stay the same.
Well, they can't stay the same. Something's going to shift, and it's either going to be the Code Relief Coalition moves ahead and people are like, let's do this, and we change it ourselves, or it will change. Because when you drop from 1,500 homes a year on average to 300, less than 300, obviously something's happened. And if you keep that up and extrapolate out in the future, it's like, okay, the only people that can afford to build are people that are publicly traded, like, D.R. Horton, where they can come in. It doesn't matter if they lose money because they just have to keep the show going so that they can keep the investments going. And you even, look at, they're buying properties from Palomar and buying whole subdivisions and developing them, because Palomar is even looking at going, wow, this is, unless we do, 500 homes, we can't make it any money.
And who is that again?
D.R. Horton. They're the ones that are doing a bunch of the developments around here.
Are they local or they're national?
National, yeah. And you can find them.
Can
on
you
the stock
look up
market.
and see who D.R. Horton's owned by? We'll have her. I'm gonna have her look it up real quick. I'd be curious if it's BlackRock and Vanguard.
I wouldn't be surprised. Well, I would be curious because I know that every time a code change comes out, there's 4 more Simpson strong ties that you have to use. So the funniest one is every county in the state of California has to put hurricane clips on their trusses, every truss. And it was a code change in like 2007 or 2009 or something like that. And it's like, wait, there's no hurricanes here. But you got to put these H1 or H2 clips on every house. And you figure a box of clips, $115. If you got 1.5 million homes built in the U.S.
So look who the shareholders are, or does it say on there? Oh, Vanguard. Vanguard.
Figures.
Institutional. Yeah, so 48% owned by Vanguard. You can't make this stuff up. So that's a pretty big shareholder. If you go down further, I'm sure you could find some more stuff. But I mean, I didn't know the answer to that. But I mean, like I was saying, it's the same people.
Yeah.
So we've got these globalist companies that are
That's who's writing our code. It's International Code Council. It's 38 different countries. You look at South America, we push that into Venezuela, many different countries down there, and look what happened to Venezuela. That's not going too well. And it just basically makes it legal for the government to go in and take whole sections of people and say, yeah, you can't live here anymore. Your houses are all legal. And they're probably going, how do we make them legal? Well, there's no place to even buy the materials to make their houses legal. So I feel it's really important to get this started here to start changing these codes, because I feel, and even I've heard it a couple times here lately, and it really stuck with me, is when the Constitution was originally written, Benjamin Franklin and Benjamin Franklin or Thomas Jefferson said that if you ever lost the right to own your own land, check out from society, and make your own living on your own piece of property, that'll be the undoing of the country. And it really makes sense when you extrapolate that back. You have to, why would that be the fall of the country? Because sometimes a country gets to a point where they exert so much control on their population. Yeah. People like me just say, I don't want to be part of it. So I'm going to go live on my 40 acres, and I'm going to have some chickens and pigs and cows, and I'm going to do my thing, and I'm going to build whatever buildings I want, and I don't have property taxes, so all I have to do is make food for myself. That's really not that hard.
How don't you have property taxes, though?
Somebody needs to start another They need to start another coalition to stop that. Totally against the law.
So here's my, I think anybody should be able to own one piece of property and no property tax.
Yeah.
100%. Everybody. In fact, I actually think the government, and I'm not a big government person, but I think that if we're going to have these big government subsidizing policies, okay, I think that every family should, if they're going to have government help, the government should even help you, maybe with an interest-free loan or something like that, right? Where your average common person that's trying can own one piece of property and pay zero property tax on it. Because how can you own something if, like, say right now, if you want to go buy a decent chunk of land and live on a ranch, I mean, you're looking at $1 million, right? I mean, you're not going to find a big ranch where you could raise cattle and do that kind of stuff for under $1 million. That's $10,000. You know, if you got a $1.2 million, even if you don't have the insurance and you don't have any of the other stuff and you're just paying property tax, that's $1,000 a month you got to come up with. And raising cattle, selling chicken eggs, doing all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? It's just $1,000 a month living off the grid, selling produce at the farmer's market. I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but you're still a slave to the system.
Yeah.
I mean, so personally, I think everybody should be able to at least, now, if you want to be Vanguard and BlackRock and go and buy everything up, then you should, you know, and it's a business where you're making money, then I think that you should be paying some taxes on that.
I think you came up with just a great thought process there is, maybe you go in and you start fighting the ICC with the state, and the state's saying, you know, we're not having none of it. And you go, okay, well, we're going to write our own code that says if you go purchase your own piece of property with no bank loan and you build your house with no bank loan, you haven't borrowed any money from anybody, you own it outright, then we have a whole different set of codes that you can comply with, because the bank, you don't have a bank that's holding the note that's going to go, hey, we got to sell this at some point in case you default. You got to follow the codes. Well, there is no bank. So then you can have the option to say, okay, I'm going to build everything out of pocket. You have a different set of permit fees. You have maybe even no property taxes. And you can go and buy your 40 acres and build it and be able to afford it and maintain it and live on it without paying a monthly payment. Because property taxes are, when your house is on average around here, I mean, pretty houses on average around here, if you buy one for less than $500,000, you're doing pretty good. So
yeah,
property taxes are expensive. That's a lot of money going out. You're not going to make that by selling fruits and vegetables. I'm sorry, it's just going to be a rough.
Yeah, at $600,000, that's $500 a month.
Yeah,
and that's without. I mean, that's just in property tax.
Yeah, and then you know, maybe another way too would be to say your idea of having one house. You know, you can still homestead property in California. But they've reduced it down now where you homestead it. It basically says that you're securing $75,000 of value in that piece of property. And I don't feel like it should be that way. It should be, if you homestead it, you're exempt from property taxes. This is your residence. You're going to live there for the rest of your life. You've homesteaded it, and that puts you into a whole different, like if you go buy 10 other properties, you can't homestead them all, but you can homestead the one you live in, and you can be, you know, naturally farm exempt. You've homesteaded it, so you can go build a barn, no permits. It's a barn. You're farm exempt. You're homesteaded, so you just get considered that you fall into a different section of the law. You don't owe money on it, and you're not protecting $75,000. You're protecting the entire piece of property. Might be a way forward.
And you can do that right now?
You can do that right now, but it only protects $75,000 of value in the house. So if you went bankrupt and lost the house, they took it. They
what
would
if
have
you
to give
outright own the property, though? That's all I'm saying is if you
didn't pay your property taxes, they'd come and take it. But they have to give you $75,000.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, but
Yeah.
you still got to. There's no way to get out of the property tax.
They'll take your property,
Yeah,
which is wrong.
So how do you own it?
No, it's all rental. It's rental. We've agreed somehow to a system. We probably voted on something like for the schools at some point back in the day that said, yeah, you're going to give money to the schools, and it was property taxes because that's the way it usually goes down.
It's always a slippery slope, though.
Yeah, it's like we're going to do good, and we're, you know, doing good always means that we're going to steal from you somehow and make it look really neat.
Oh yeah, it's for the children, though.
Yeah, it's for the children. Give us more money. And it's like, wait, don't you guys take in all that money from the lottery?
So I'm all for consumer tax. I think that all this money can be raised through a consumer tax versus strong arming people on their personal property, or at least, property. I think if you want to buy, a brand new fancy Ferrari or a brand new $110,000 truck, or when you go and buy things that aren't food and stuff like that, you have a consumer tax. Just like when you go and fill up fuel in your vehicle, you shouldn't be paying registration every year. You should just be paying the tax through how much fuel you buy. And that money goes to fix the roads and the infrastructure, things like that. I'm for a consumer tax. I think a consumer tax could make sense and pay for these services that are needed. We need a fire department. We need law enforcement. I don't want complete anarchy. I'm a living in government guy, but I don't want mob rule. I know what that kind of stuff really is. Some people say they want it, but trust me, they're usually people that wouldn't be around very much longer after that kind of stuff was going on.
Yeah.
But anyways, there's a lot of things to fix. I don't want to get too far off base here. So we do have a serious problem though.
Yes.
And so how do people reach? Are you looking for people to help? Is there a way to, I don't know if donating money helps or volunteers, or what can people do to help move the ball to the end zone?
I think right now the biggest thing is me having the time to go and spend, again, going to Lassen County and Glenn County and every county meeting and working with these different counties until I find a county that says, yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
Because I think once you get that, you're going to have a county that's going to get behind it, and if they came in and said, okay, well, we're going to publish a white paper and a framework, and we're going to frame out a rural building code, and this is what we're going to petition to the state, and this is what we're going to follow, and we're going to stop following the ICC because we're going to fund this study, and it's going to basically come back and say we're not following your solar code because there's no storage, and we're not following your fire code because there's nothing to back up that it's going to work, and then start advocating for it. It wouldn't take too long if you start putting that word out there, and it would start to grow, and that pressure would start to build, that you would get it up to a state level where you'd have so many people bringing it up. When it lands on, Dali's desk or one of the representatives of the state, they're going to at some point have to bring it up.
Is there a way to do a citizen-led initiative on this to get it on the ballot and then the people vote on it? Because I think if the people voted on it, it would be...
I don't know.
Well, you know what? I'll do a little bit of research on that. I'll find out.
I don't know a lot about this, honestly.
Yeah. No, it's... Hey, you know what?
Started it.
People that start this stuff and just... Somebody's got to be the trailblazer to start something, but it takes a team of people and different... You know what I mean? Like, nobody has all the answers.
No.
And, and I'm just firing off questions that just brainstorming, because I can almost guarantee that if the people voted on it in Shasta County, and I think that absolutely it would pass with flying colors. And only if it's a citizen-led initiative, it only needs 50% of the vote plus one.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah. See, I don't know any of these things. I just started it because everybody's complaining and nobody's doing anything. So I thought, well, I'll do something, and I went and filed and got the 501c3. Tried to find somebody to donate to help me build the website. I couldn't find anybody, so I just kept going through it until I figured it out.
So you could use some help, right? If some people want to help you.
If that's what I was going to say, is the biggest thing right now is me having the funds to spend the time to go, and then to get groups. And like if I had a group in Lassen County and Glenn County and Siskiyou County and Tama County that were going to the meetings, and we came up with a plan to move forward in solid framework of this is how we're going to petition this to the counties.
Yeah.
You could very possibly get, somebody along the lines that would say, hey, this is how you get it to a vote. And then once you have it, maybe on a local county where you could vote for it and say, yeah, we want to send this to the state that says we don't want this building code. The state at some point is going to have to address it and say, either you're going to follow it, we don't care, or wait, let's figure this out because we don't want to lose all our voters who are going to vote for the next guy that says, yeah, we're going to help them get rid of this.
Yeah, that's great. Go ahead and keep talking for a second.
I feel too that if you could there's some local codes that we could overturn too. One of the biggest and in Shasta County right now would be to bring back the admin permits. That would be good because then you can build barns again because they got rid of the admin permits for some reason. That wasn't a good move. And then, for instance, in Tama County, you have a farm exemption where if you have over an acre, it's 100 square feet of building per acre that you can build for storage or farm, whatever storage.
I don't even think you're allowed to have a container.
In Shasta County, no, you got to permit a container.
That's crazy. It's
Yeah.
like totally structured. I mean, you can't just plop a container down to have some cheap storage to store some stuff out of the.
It used to be where you could do that, and then they changed it to where you have to get permits.
Who
for
comes up
containers.
with that idea? I mean, you know what? We just don't like the looks of these things, and so we're just going to take people's right away. And then you got to build some permitted structure that's going to cost you 10 times. I mean, you can get a container for anywhere from $1,500 to $4,000. You know, you can get an insulated container for probably $5,000.
Well, it's like
8 by 40 foot.
yeah, and it's like the getting rid of the admin permits. At some point, somebody said, "Let's just get rid of the admin permits." So when I go in and say, "Why did you guys get rid of the admin permits?" Well, people are building barns and living in them. It's like, well, there's a bigger problem there. Like, don't just outlaw the permit. Look at why are people living in barns? Because they can't afford a house. So maybe we should address that. And then the other one that really needs to be fixed in Shasta County, and it's needed to be fixed for 25 years now, is you go to Tama County, if you have over an acre, it doesn't matter what your zone. You can be zoned residential, farm, ag, you know, multi-use, whatever it is. If you're over 1 acre, you get 100 square feet for every acre that you can build unpermitted. Shasta County has a farm exempt program, but I've gotten one farm exempt permit in 25 years. And I build a lot in Shasta County. So I think the west side of Shasta County, you have to be like 703 acres to get farm exempt. And you have to be in a real narrow area. It's basically between the bridge that goes over Clear Creek on Placer to roughly Bully Shoop Road.
So 99.9% of the people
it's just
are,
this
can't
tiny
do it.
little area on the west side that you can get farm exempt. And if you come over here to the east side, it's, well, we're not on the east side here, but towards Palisadro, I think it's 340 acres. And it's just a real small footprint again. And it's like the big ranchers can get farm exempt, but nobody else can. And you have to be zoned and you're in that farm exempt area, and you have to have the proper amount of acreage to do it. It's really like, if you want to talk about giving the people that have all the money more stuff, it's like that's a perfect way to do it, because they obviously own thousands of acres already, and you've just zoned it so they can build barns for $25. But the guy that lives down the street that has a micro farm doesn't fit. It doesn't work. And then in Tama County, I'd say most of the barns I built in Tama County have been farm exempt. You can just walk in and say they got 40 acres, and they say, cool, 4,000 square feet. How big you build? 2,000 square feet. Great. You're farm exempt. Here you go. If you put power or sewer in, we want to see it. Other than that, it's $25.
All right. How do people find you?
CodeReliefCoalition.org.
Okay.
I have a website there. Go to it and check it out. I mean, sorry for it not being more interesting, but I just built it and started to put some content on
And
there.
they have you have an email there.
I have
that
an
people
email
can-
there. I'm actually having a bit of trouble with the email right now.
You'll have it updated though.
I'll have it updated. I have to take pictures of my business and send it to Google so they know that I'm me, I guess.
Gotcha.
Because I have the Code Relief Coalition out of my house, and they're like, we want to know that this is where you're out of. So I have to fix that. I mean, if people could even text me too.
Yeah.
It 530-605-9575 if they want to be involved. But right now, volunteers would be great. Getting some chapters in different counties would be huge. I think if we can get enough pressure on enough counties, if one county votes this in, then you're going to see county after county start to go, okay, well, all of a sudden Lassen County's building way more homes than we are. We probably ought to jump on this before they start to outclass us, or Trinity or Tama or whoever. Well, Tama would be a good one. Tama County could build a lot pretty quick if they started turning back these codes.
Yeah. That's awesome. I would love to see it. I would love to see people that I know, and I would love to see it spread from county to county to county, and then maybe other states that are very difficult, like California, might look at it and say, "Hey, look what they did it in California."
Yeah.
But yeah, that's great. Well, you got any other stuff you want to talk about?
Only thing I'd like to bring up is I'm not against safety or building code. We have
Yeah.
to have something. It's like, like you're saying, you have to have police and fire. It's just to say you don't, it's a terrible idea. Things would go south quick.
Oh, for sure.
You have to have some kind of structure to follow. But the structure needs to be a realistic structure. I mean, when, back in the day when, they built all these barns around here with a level and a Coke bottle with a bubble in it and a hope and a prayer that they're going to survive, to now they have to have a lawyer and an engineer and 15,000 yards of concrete to build the same barn that stood for 100 years. You could look at it and go, okay, well, we've overshot the mark pretty far.
Yeah.
We can reel it back and meet somewhere in the middle.
Absolutely. I'm all for common sense safety stuff. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need that. We just don't need as much of it as we're getting, you know? And
I think taking our building code and putting it county by county, and it's going to be an arduous deal for each county to write up their code. I get that.
Yeah.
And we can cross that bridge when we get there. And it would probably be, sitting down and really coming up with, there are people in each county that they know the code, they draw plans, they do all that stuff, and they could come up with, I'm not talking about commercial here or high rise. I'm just talking about residential building.
Yeah.
They could sit down and they could come up with a palatable code for that county. But taking it out of a centralized location where you have 3M and Hilti and Simpson Strong Tie and these big multi-billion-dollar companies coming in and lobbying and paying off. I was mentioning that earlier. Simpson got that H1 clip and H2 clips.
Can you look up and see who owns 3M, just out of curiosity?
No, we did that.
No, it wasn't 3M. It was the company.
It was D.R. Horton.
D.R.
Right.
Horton.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have her look up and see. Just you know what I mean. It's kind of funny if I just want to see who owns it, who's the shareholders are.
Yeah, I would be interested to see that.
And then there was another one.
So the Simpsons, another one. Vanguard Group again?
Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street.
Oh, wow. So
what a coincidence.
Let's
Man,
look
it's almost like I got a crystal ball, isn't it?
let's look
What's
at
the other
Simpson
one?
Strong Tie.
Simpson Strong Tie.
Yeah.
Who
It's
owns? I'm
Simpson
telling you, man,
Strong
once
Tie.
you start unraveling this stuff, it's
Simpson Strong Tie has so much control. The code book calls out Simpson Strong Tie.
oh, let's see, subsidiary. It's a publicly traded, well, like Vanguard and BlackRock. Huh. Isn't that a coincidence? The
Seems
same
to be
people
coming
that
back.
make the codes own the companies that benefit from the codes written, and this is a pattern that happens. I'm not really that smart. It's just, I'm just telling you, I've just done the research.
Well, there's money, huge money to be made. Simpson Strong Tie got these hurricane clips. Every truss gets a hurricane clip. So every house, you got to buy a box of hurricane clips, along with 15 million other hangers. So a box of hurricane clips like $115.
I wonder how these
A
companies
million
just keep
houses?
making profit over profit over profit.
It's $110 million.
They're the ones that hired the lobbyists.
Yes,
They're
they're all in one spot. They're in the ICC council in California lobbying right now.
I've thrown this out there before, but BlackRock, Vanguard, Watch.com, BlackRock, if anybody's interested in some of that stuff right there to see who basically runs, basically owns all the company. We're talking media.
Yeah.
We're talking like, when I say everything, I mean all, you name a mega, I don't care if it's IBM or Apple, Amazon. You look at people like, Jeff Bezos and all, you look who owns it. It's all
Jeff Bezos donates a lot of money to the ICC as well. The ICC California chapter, he donates money to. Well, when I started looking at this and I realized that it was funded by USAID under George Bush. Another thing you probably are familiar with this is when George Bush implemented the Agenda 21.
Oh, I know all about
so
Agenda
a lot
21.
of this
They
comes
call it
from
Agenda
that.
2030 now because people started figuring out what Agenda 21 was.
Oh, so that a lot of that's basically where this started. Was the Agenda 21.
Absolutely.
And it was to frustrate and get people out of the drainage basins for all of our water supplies.
Yeah.
So that you could make it basically unfeasible to build in rural areas.
The goal for that is to push everybody out of rural communities into prison-like cities connected by superhighways, now 15-minute city type stuff. We could do hours on this stuff, but it's
what they're
real.
doing.
Absolutely. And it all started decades ago, but it's really started speeding up, really a lot has happened in the last, I'd say since 2000. It seems like things have changed very drastically since around 9/11, 2001.
the
I'd
big
say
shift,
that was
yeah.
kind of the big shift where just the New World Order that George H.W. Bush, you talked about a couple times, he used to say, he's the one that trademarked that term, New World Order. He used to say it all the time.
Yeah.
We're going to have a New World Order.
Yeah.
And that's a whole, you could put a lot of different names on it. I know it sounds like conspiracy stuff, but it's all real.
But it's all real. And it absolutely
The
happened.
Agenda 21 map, I don't know if you've seen that. Do you know what I'm talking about? The United Nations Agenda 21
No.
map. It was the map of what their plans were. It's what stopped a lot of those. If you look up, just look up UN Agenda 21 map. Okay, so you have core, reservoirs, and corridors, right? Little to no human use. That's the red.
Okay.
Then you have yellow, which is a buffer zone, highly regulated use. It might as well just be red, right? Highly regulated use, right? And then the NAFTA border, which is the orange, which is just kind of there on the bottom. And then you have normal use, which is the greenish color, the turquoise, I guess. I don't know, the
Right.
bluish green turquoise color, right? So that's normal use. You don't see a lot of that, do you? Then you see
No.
Indian reservations, and then you see military reservations.
We got to fit into a quarter of the area that the Indians have to fit into.
So, anyways, you look at this, and basically, I don't know what percentage, but 99% of the U.S. would be off limits to your average person.
Yeah.
And this was actually a simulated reserve and corridor system to protect biodiversity. This was from the United Nations. This is not something that said, hey, this is what the United Nations wants to do. That map came from the United Nations. And this map was presented to Congress, I believe, in the 80s. Maybe it was the 90s. I think it was the 80s. I'd have to spend a little while since I've done some information, researched this. But anyways, that map is pretty, I don't know, it's pretty easy to understand what the plan is if you think it's a conspiracy. That map's
One of the things they've done here recently that have really pushed a lot of people out of these rural areas is septic systems, which
Yeah.
we've used for 100 years. Is leach fields originally with perforated pipe and rock, and it worked forever. Then they improved that with infiltrators. Well, they changed the way that you test the septic fields. So most of that stuff, it's very hard to get them permitted anymore. And so you have to use a Presby system or a pressure dose system. So your cost of a septic system on a house has went up from 12 to 15 grand to 30 to 40.
Oh, wow.
So that's a huge jump in cost. And then that fire sprinkler, in the city, the fire sprinkler expense is 10 to 15,000. But you get out in the rural areas and it's double that because you got to have a CAL FIRE proof pump, 1,000-gallon storage. You got to put it inside of a building.
I wonder who owns the companies that sells all that stuff. Just guessing, it's probably the same people.
Very possibly. I wouldn't be shocked.
That was pretty wild to look at that map, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you guys,
it's terrifying.
it's that's
We're going to be
now they call it see Agenda 21 got unpopular, so they call it Agenda 2030 now.
We're going to be escaping to Mexico at that point.
I always say you're going to run out of places to run to.
Yeah.
So that's why I stay right here in Shasta County State. People think you're crazy, man. You're going to stay in California. I go, yeah, I'd rather just kind of deal with my own problems and not run to some other
It's gonna
state.
just
And I
go.
feel like if you go to some other state where they have more freedom, they're just kind of not going to be fighting it as hard. I love being in Shasta County. There's so many patriots here that love to push back against tyranny. And we kind of you talk to anybody who comes from another country who dealt with communism, or something like that, where there was totalitarianism in their country, and they can see what's happening in the United States. And they're like, no, this is exactly what they do. People that have lived it, right now, people are starting to wake up though. People are waking up. People know about a lot of stuff that was, the information is just out there now, and there's a lot of misinformation out there. You got to be careful, do your own research,
Yeah.
you can't just have anybody that you trust, that you listen to everything they say. There's people that I really trusted, but then 10 years later, I look at him and go, man, gave me a lot of really good information, but then kind of led me away from the truth, always kind of diverted from the real root cause of things. And there's a lot of people out there that are
experienced that.
Yeah. So
I think that a lot of this too is getting ahead of what's coming in our future. And I believe what's coming is more efficiency and more freedom. And that's terrifying. They need to get control quick because you figure right now, if you decided to buy this proverbial 40 acres and build your own house, and let's say that you didn't have to pay property taxes, and we got a few of these things passed, you could go off grid, have a solar system, basically have all the amenities that you would have anywhere else in California, and you would not be affecting anybody. You would be totally off grid. You have your own power, your own food, and you could unplug from the system. And then the system would have to go correct itself. They'd have to say, why are people unplugging? Well, because we've done this, and that, and it's caused these issues, and they've stepped out of it. And then to put that in today's terms, you have all these fees and codes you have to follow, and you have a house that's built totally off grid, but you got to follow green energy building code, and you have to have argon-filled windows with tinting on. It's wait, I'm burning up my own power here. Why do I have to follow any of these codes? Like, I'm not tied into the grid, so I don't need any more of the insulation. Or at that point, it would just say, okay, all of these codes are mute and void because you're not plugged into the grid. So we're not using our power, you're using your own. So you don't have to follow anything. Do what you want. Just make it safe, you know?
No, I agree 100%.
That's where it's going. So the only way they can do this is to head it off. Like PG&E recently redid the way they pay for solar so that they don't pay you anything for it. So now if you put solar in your house, you get like a $3 break in your bill. It's like, well, why'd I do this?
Yeah,
well, it's the law.
We'll credit your account up to $3, but after that, you know, it's.
Well, I have a rep for PG&E. I said, why did they do this so they don't have to pay any money? He says, well, we can't sell it for anything. We're giving the power away. There's too much power when the sun's shining. Well, they don't store it. Well, there is no storage yet.
Well, they're raising their prices.
So
you know, I looked into their profits because they're raising their prices again, and it's like 2.45 billion last year, last couple of 2 billion, 2.5 billion with the B, and they did lose some money back in 2019 from the fires and stuff, but then they had a bunch of they filed bankruptcy and stuff like that. So I don't know. I'm not an expert on PG&E, but like, holy smokes, you look up who we actually pay more than anybody else in California, Pete. We're paying more. And even City of Redding electricity is way more than it should be. I'm not an expert on that, but I believe they're not supposed to charge more than what it costs to make it as a utility for the public, for citizens. Okay, so you know more than I do about it. The way it works
is they can charge 10% over
as a slush fund
over their expense.
Yes.
So when you see PG&E and they're coming in and weeding around a pole like 15 times, it's completely down to dirt, and they're spraying it every other day. It's because the more expense they have, they can charge 10% over that. So that's why they're replacing all these.
With PG&E's the same way?
I don't know.
Or City of Redding.
I don't know if City of Redding are. City of Redding's cheaper than PG&E by far, but I don't know how they operate.
But we should have like six.
I think that they have to actually, if they go over 3%, they have to put it to a vote, I believe.
Is that, were you talking about PG&E as far as the 10%?
So PG&E is under the state, and the state said you can charge 10% over what your expenses are per year.
Huh.
So PG&E said, well, we'll just replace every single power pole. We'll replace things that are fine, and we'll weed eat around these power poles over and over again and cut trees that don't need to be cut, because the more money we spend, the more we can charge, because it's 10% over their expense. So they've run their expense up sky high so they can charge more. So your PG&E, our PG&E, my PG&E right now is outrageous. And
no. We are paying the highest in all of California. And I wouldn't be surprised if we were in the whole United States. I didn't even do that.
It's like you go to Eureka or you go to Nevada and you start asking people their power bill.
Right here in Trinity, it's like 8 cents a kilowatt.
Yeah, it's like
we're paying 39.
Yeah, we're way more than anybody else that when I talk to people I know, I always ask them a lot of questions about different stuff like that. Yeah, we're like 3 times more than anybody else.
Yeah,
and we have the most free power here.
I know.
Shasta Dam. So
I know, it's crazy. I don't know. To Never Land.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, they're probably selling it for 40 cents a kilowatt.
All right. Well, hey, it's a pleasure. I really appreciate you, Luke.
Absolutely.
Luke Pearson. And what's the name of the company again? I feel horrible.
It's
Code Relief Coalition.
Yep.
I'm sorry. I'm just getting to know you right now, but I'm all for it. I'm on board. I'm a pretty busy guy, but I'm gonna do a little bit of research and see if I can help with any ideas and strategy. I sit and lay in bed and I think about this stuff, before I go to bed. And when I'm driving I'm always thinking about stuff. And this is one of the main problems that I've seen, is just like people not being able to afford housing.
It could change everything.
And what's the root cause of that?
Yeah.
And so there's more layers than just what you're talking about, but that's probably one of the biggest issues is driving up the cost of this stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate you and just standing up and trying to do something that takes up your time and your effort. And we need more people like you stepping up. If more people got up and did stuff like this, we wouldn't be in as bad of a situation as we were. But right now it's go time, right?
Yeah, it's go time. It's going to be a lot of slings and arrows, but it is what it is.
All right. Thanks,
you,
brother.
sir.
Appreciate you.
Take care.